Hands. Hands. Get out. Hands up. Get out here now. Come on. Please don't let him see me. He's got a weapon. I can hear him. I swear I can hear his truck somewhere nearby. I still can't wrap my head around it, that she ended up hiding inside a box. There was blood everywhere, on the toilet, smeared across the wall, on a shoe, on a shirt, pooled across the floor. When deputies in Murray County, Georgia, responded to a call about a woman found hiding on someone's porch, they had no idea they were about to walk into something far more disturbing than it first appeared. The woman they found was terrified, injured, and desperate, convinced that the man she had just escaped would come looking for her. And as shocking as her condition was, it barely scratched the surface of what she claimed she had endured. On June 3, 2024, a deputy arrived at a home in Crandall, Georgia, after a 911 caller reported a woman hiding outside. With urgency, the officer approached and ordered whoever was there to come out with their hands visible. A woman emerged, clearly shaken. She was immediately ordered to the ground while the deputy secured the situation. She insisted she hadn't done anything wrong, her voice cracking as she tried to explain. She said she had been beaten by her boyfriend, pointing to injuries on her hand and collarbone, claiming they were broken. All she wanted, she said, was help, a hospital, somewhere safe. The deputy reassured her she wasn't under arrest and helped her into the patrol car, though she remained visibly panicked, begging them not to let him find her. The woman identified herself as 29-year-old Cassidy Porch. She explained that she had fled her fiancé, Nick Carain, leaving behind her phone and shoes in her rush to escape. She waited until he fell asleep, then ran, going door to door until someone finally called for help while she hid. She admitted to having a couple of drinks the night before, but insisted she hadn't been drinking that morning, despite the smell. She said Nick had spilled alcohol on her. Most importantly, she warned officers that he was armed, mentioning both a .45 and another smaller handgun. She was convinced he would come looking for her, and soon enough, the sound of a truck nearby heightened her fear. Another deputy moved to intercept a red Dodge Ram matching her description. Meanwhile, Cassidy described what had happened, a fight that escalated into violence. She said Nick threw objects at her, tables, furniture, and slammed her head into the toilet. She believed her collarbone was broken and could barely move. EMS was called as officers tried to piece together what had happened. Not long after, the second deputy located Nick returning home and stopped him in his driveway. Nick appeared calm and claimed he had simply woken up to find Cassidy gone. He said he had been searching for her, even asking neighbors if they had seen her. Back at the scene, neighbors began gathering. The man who called 911 explained he had armed himself for safety, but ultimately did the right thing by calling authorities. Others mentioned that Cassidy had shown up like this before, injured and fleeing, but they had never fully understood what was happening. Nick himself admitted she had a tendency to take off, though he framed it as her acting unpredictably rather than responding to abuse. With conflicting stories piling up, the deputy decided to speak directly with Nick again, this time pressing him about Cassidy's visible injuries, her blackened eyes, head wound, and scraped knees. Nick denied everything. He claimed she was perfectly fine when they went to bed, and suggested whatever happened must have occurred after she left. When asked for permission to search the house, he initially refused, requesting a warrant. He showed no visible injuries on his hands, and said his swollen ankle caused by a fall earlier that night would have made it impossible for him to assault anyone. However, as inconsistencies mounted, deputies requested a warrant to search the property. By then, they had also received word from the hospital Cassidy's injuries were worse than they initially thought. Once the warrant was secured, officers re-entered the home. They were warned about a loose snake somewhere inside, but that quickly became the least of their concerns. As they moved towards the back of the house, a section Nick had been reluctant to let them see, they began noticing signs of a struggle. There were drag marks on the floor, broken items scattered around, and blood in multiple places. A damaged phone, a pistol magazine, and partially packed luggage painted a chaotic scene. Blood spatter patterns suggested significant violence had taken place. Inside the bathroom, the situation became even more disturbing. Blood was found on nearly every surface, walls, floors, the toilet itself. It appeared someone had tried to clean up, but not thoroughly. Officers also discovered what looked like human waste in the toilet, aligning with Cassidy's claim that her head had been forced into it. Nearby were blood-soaked clothing items and what investigators described as a tomahawk-style weapon with possible blood traces. A firearm was also recovered, with blood near the barrel. Everything pointed toward a brutal, prolonged assault. Additional details only deepened the concern. A ripped shirt was found, matching Cassidy's account that her clothing had been torn off. Nick later claimed she damaged her own clothing for, quote, content creation and explanation that raised more questions than answers. His mother arrived at the scene, visibly surprised by the severity of the situation. She admitted Nick had a troubled past with relationships, but stopped short of defending him. Ultimately, based on the physical evidence alone, Nick was arrested. At the hospital, Cassidy provided a full account of what she said happened. She described how an argument escalated quickly, turning violent when Nick threw furniture at her. After attempting to call her godfather for help, Nick discovered the call and became enraged. She said he tackled her as she tried to flee, slammed her head against the floor, and pinned her down, choking her multiple times.
He then dragged her by her hair back into the bedroom, where he allegedly pointed a gun at her and threatened her life. According to Cassidy, the violence didn't stop there. She said he forced her into the bathroom, pushed her head into the toilet repeatedly, and later struck her with the blunt side of an axe. She described being trapped, unable to escape, and fearing she would be killed. She also revealed this wasn't the first time, claiming previous incidents of abuse, including one that left a scar on her head. Even more alarming, she said Nick's young son was in the house during the incident, and Nick had suggested the child needed to see this. Nick, however, maintained his innocence. He insisted Cassidy was unstable, often leaving and returning with injuries, accusing him falsely. He downplayed the evidence, offering alternative explanations that didn't align with what investigators had found. Despite his claims, the charges against him were severe: kidnapping with bodily injury, aggravated assault, family violence, firearm possession during a felony, battery, and cruelty to children. Cassidy was granted a protective order. While in jail awaiting trial, Nick made recorded calls, expressing disbelief at the charges and potential sentence. He claimed there was no proof and believed witnesses could support his side. However, prosecutors moved forward based on the physical evidence and Cassidy's injuries. Ultimately, although one charge was dropped, Nick was found guilty on multiple counts. He was sentenced to life in prison plus an additional 25 years, bringing a grim end to a case that began with a terrified woman hiding in a box, fighting to survive.